illustration of FORTRAN, let's consider the problem of getting information into the computer's memory. Using FORTRAN, all I need do is write the word read, followed by two numbers, followed by the information I would like to put into the computer's memory. This statement really says to the computer, read on one of the input devices, and a 2 would refer to a specific device. The 50 would reference a specification that would be used in conjunction with the information going into the computer's memory. I would be reading on a device, according to some specification, a specific value for a variable called C in this case, and a specific variable called D, the pipe diameter. To get information from the computer's memory, all I need do is to write the word write, followed by a parenthesis in which there are two numbers, followed by information that I would like to get from the computer's memory. In this case, I would be saying, write on a particular output device, referenced by the number 3, according to a specification. This would tell the computer the size or number of digits that I would be permitting this particular variable to have as it comes from the computer's memory. We are saying, write on an output device according to specifications. The program, after having been written, was punched into a deck of IBM cards, along with the data to solve this problem. This program is now being loaded into the computer's memory where instructions are stored by pressing the following buttons on the card reader and these buttons on the 1130 console. The program is now being read into the computer's memory. The cards are being read at the rate of 300 cards per minute. At this point in time, the program is in the computer's memory, and their data cards are being read and being processed. Our printer is now printing out the results at the rate of 80 lines per minute. It has taken the 1130 less than 2 seconds to solve our problem.
Borland International is perhaps best known for its Turbo language products, such as Turbo Pascal and Turbo C, two structured programming environments that have sold well over 1 million copies. They're part of what Borland President Philippe Kahn calls the first software revolution. In spite of similarities, the two languages have dissimilar markets.
Pascal is more of a university tool, actually, which is used a lot to teach computer science courses and data structures or the first-tier classes, and hopefully it's now moving into high schools and replacing BASIC. C is more of a systems programming language. A lot of commercial software is written that way. Basically, most C programmers also know Pascal and can program in Pascal because it started taking their first data structures class probably, or programming class in university in Pascal. Most people learn Pascal. It's you know, fundamentally plain syntax and great way to do things. It's a great hobbyist language. Whereas C is more of a system programmer's language. You know, if you only program a few hours a week, 3 or 4 hours a week, Pascal is a great language. C is a little difficult.
Borland is now advancing what it considers the next revolution in software design, called object-oriented programming, an environment that features reusable, extendable code. In particular, object-oriented tools stress the underlying architecture of the program's design, using a modular building block approach.
I think maybe one of the first benefits is the fact that object-oriented programming forces careful software architecture. When you're building a piece of software, one of the most difficult things, if you're on your own, is sometimes if you're, kind of a good programmer, is to force yourself to just think about it a lot, architect the house before you start building it. Object-oriented programming, by forcing you to lay out your class hierarchies, etc., forces you to really think things through.
It's somehow odd that the national fascination with drinking exotic coffees has coincided with the incredible growth of a programming language called Java and an endless stream of related software products, all named after coffees of one sort or another. Well, today we're going to find out why Java, the software programming language, is such a big deal. One good place to start is with a new Java authoring system that just about anybody can figure out how to use. And I guess, Frank, that's the point in Instant Coffee. I don't need to know anything about Java code, but I can create a Java applet?
That's correct. Let me show you how it works. I could create a text element here. It's about as complex as using a desktop publishing product or maybe even a word processor. I can type Instant Coffee and select an animation speed. When I click the OK button, you can see that the object appears on the screen. If I can move it around with exact placement, or I can stretch it out. When I click on the preview button here, you can see that the animation shows exactly how it'll appear on your website.
All right, what about little fishy characters on there? Did I create those in this too?
Yeah, this is using traditional cell-based animation techniques. So here's the puffer fish, and here are the different animation cells. And
So
that's
you just
how
got
he
5
built that.
frames that make that animation?
That's right. I also have another fish here, which actually moves across a line when he animates. So if I double-click on him, you can see I've got individual cells for him. But I also have kind of an interesting thing in that he has an event where he can talk to the pufferfish. So, for
you
example,
can relate different objects.
that's correct. This is the 90s, so the world world of objects.
So what can I do with it?
Well, for example, the mouse click here will be sent to the puffer. If I clicked on one fish, a mouse event is sent to the pufferfish to show or hide itself. So when I'm previewing this animation, I can click on him, and that event is being triggered or received by the pufferfish.
Now, one of these objects could also be a hot URL, so I could click on it and link to a site?
That's correct. I could make this fish link to, say, an aquarium, and this fish link to another website.
All right, now, as I understand it, because this is Java, I don't need to download any particular plugin. This will simply run on my machine, right, if I have the basic browsers.
That's the beauty of living in the 90s with internet browsers. For at least the last year and a half or 2 years, most browsers have been capable of running these Java applets straight out of the box.
All right, it's easy to create the applet. How hard is it now to drop this into my web page?
Well, I can click on the build button here, and this will take all of the objects, compress them down to very, very small.
Python is not a functional language for a very good reason. Python is very pragmatic. It lets you mess around with state, it lets you fiddle with the operating system. There are all kinds of things that you can very easily do in Python that somehow are incredibly hard in a beautiful language like Haskell. Haskell is great when you you follow all the examples. You see all these incredibly beautiful little diamonds of code that functionally translate one piece of data into another piece of data. But when you try to actually accomplish something like copy a file system or write a web server, all the messy code becomes much messier, and there isn't an easy sort of clean functional part in there that where the functional language helps you so much.